Well, good morning and good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in. Hello, Vinit.
Hi, Rich. Good to speak again.
And definitely it is. What a great opportunity this is for us to speak about some of what we do and how we do it. Maybe we can start with a quick introduction. Who are you and what's your story?
So, very high level, I coach sales teams and professionals to lead with integrity and character. That's what I do. I have a background in sales, spent 25 years in sales. I just love coaching salespeople and helping them understand the behaviors and barriers that are holding them back.
That's great, Vinit. And tell us a little bit about the London School of Sales.
So the London School of Sales was founded in 2019, and we exist to change the perception of sales in the UK specifically, and more generally in other parts of the world as well. In the UK, sales is not seen as a profession as it is in the US. It's very much a dirty word, and it's the type of job that someone does if they didn't become an accountant or a professional, to want of a better word. So we exist to kind of improve standards and create best practices so that sales becomes something that people can actively do, because the skills that you learn, or I've learned in sales, are incredible. And if you're able to master those, then the world is your oyster in terms of what's available to you. And I think fundamental to that, and what we're going to talk about today, is communication, which is crucial.
Right. And you had talked about character in your foray as you were talking about the London School of Sales. If you have integrity, you're going to be delivering something of value to people, something that they want. Mm. So then, it kind of is a backdoor there to the question of, how did sales become a dirty word? Is that because of salespeople who lacked integrity, who tried to foist off products on people who didn't want or need them?
I think that you've hit the nail on the head. I did a survey, and not a proper survey, but one of the first questions I ask anyone that I coach or anyone that I speak to is, what's the first image that comes into your mind when you think about a bad sales experience or your first sales experience? And in the UK, typically, it's a car salesman, a pushy car salesman who has tried to sell a customer something that isn't needed. And I think that, the core of sales is two things. Fundamentally, it's solving a problem, and it's communicating in an effective manner where you're able to understand the issue and articulate a solution that the customer can actually see where there's an outcome that's going to actually support them, help them. But I just think that over time, there's been this pressure on individuals, on organizations, just to hit revenue numbers. So by hook or by crook, individuals, companies, teams have just been trying to sell and worry about what happens afterwards later. And I think that's, whilst I understand that yes, we do need to hit targets, but there is an ethical way that we can do it. There is a way that we can do it where, we don't look at the short term, but we actually build something that has a long-term value. Because again, one of the big things here, Rich, is that so many organizations that I speak to, they focus on the short term. They bring in these customers in the short term, but they're the wrong type of customers for that product or that service or that client. And then they have to spend so much time servicing them. And that's an energy drain in itself.
I was conducting a sales class once, and a participant raised the question, can you make a sale on a lie? And my answer in front of the room was, yes, absolutely. Once. Yeah. Don't expect that customer to come back. And don't expect a good review after that. Absolutely. Speaking of customers and their needs, one of the important things in the sales process is doing some information gathering. we have two different delineations on information gathering. One is pre-approach information gathering, and the other is when you know you're going to get the meeting, that sort of detailed information gathering. What does that do for the salesperson? What does it do for the prospect?
I think it's a hugely important step. I think to answer your question, confidence. It ultimately builds confidence. The salesperson has an idea of how the product or service may be able to support or help that particular customer. And the customer is actually talking to someone that's done their due diligence, done their homework. They're not coming at this as a completely cold, well, I've got this particular product which I think might be useful to you. Is actually, I've done my homework. I know that you do X, Y, and Z, and we help companies similar to you who are able to use our product and service and achieve Z. So I think it's just very simple, but in communication terms, but you're able to just change the narrative and change where the conversation goes.
I'm smiling. I'm just thinking of an example that I've gotten this in the past couple of weeks a few times. An email comes in from someone that says, "Dear Rich, you folks at Improving Communications would be a perfect franchisee of this new, I don't even know what it is, hamburgers, micro resistors." I'm making stuff up now because I don't even, and I look at these emails and sometimes I actually write back and I say, this is so wildly unrelated to anything that we do. It would be one thing if someone said, hey, we do Microsoft training and we'd like to partner with you and maybe you could be a franchisee on that. That makes sense. It's in the training world, it's in the communications world. Sure, I can get that. But when these just really odd opportunities come up, we thought of you, and I look at that and I say, did you really think of me, or are you just doing what we call spray and pray?
Yeah.
Spray and pray they use that in the email marketing world. Let's just send out as many pieces as we can and see what we can get. If you get a menu delivered to your doorstep, that is a good example of spray and pray. Because if we send a menu to everyone in this city, someone's likely to order from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Knowing your customer is so important. Knowing the kind of customer that is. I liken this sometimes to when, say, detectives are going to pick up a suspect and start asking questions about where that person was. They don't go in blind. They don't go in knowing nothing about this person. Wow, you used to live at this address? We never knew that. That's great information. Wow, good to know. They don't do that. They have all the information there and they're checking. And here's what that does for the detectives, and in our case, for the salespeople. We are empowered. You said it. It's confidence. We're empowered with information. So when someone says, well, yeah, at our company, we do XYZ, that's when you're sitting there not saying, oh my goodness, you do that also? Who knew? You're saying, yes, sure, I understand. And then you can answer like the expert and say, sure, many companies in your position do the following things. What's your experience? That says I've done research on the industry and I've also done a little bit of thinking about you.
I'll take that one step further in sales conversations. And from a marketing perspective, we're told to know your audience and have a persona in mind that you are pitching to or selling to. I think that you also, in addition to that, need to be aware of the characteristics of the person that is ultimately going to be making that decision or who you are having that conversation with. And I want to use that term. It is a conversation. It isn't actually you going in there and having a script and saying, right, this is what I'm going to ask and I'm going to get this response and whatever. It's a conversation. Now, what I will say is in the same example that you used with the detective already knows the characteristics of their audience. They are going to position questions in a very specific way because they're expecting a certain type of answer and a certain type of response. So in the sales world, most sellers want to talk to decision makers or influencers. Now, depending on the background, if the decision maker is someone very senior, the likelihood is that they're going to be a direct person. If they're a managing director, if they're a CEO of an organization, their time is precious. So they want you to stop beating around the bush and actually get to the crux of why you requested their time and you're having that meeting. So you can't actually fill the conversation with the fluff, the nice wishy-washy conversation, and I know that sometimes that is needed, but with those individuals in mind, you have to be more direct because that's the language that they appreciate, and that's if they want more information, they will ask for it. So you have to respect their needs.
You and I started with that today. So before we went live, ladies and gentlemen, before we went live, we had our pleasantries. Vinit, how was your weekend? How's the week been going so far? And moved from there into the business of, okay, let's get this live going. It's interesting you talked about asking questions. That's just the key thing in sales. What's your take on that? What sorts of questions should we be asking? How should we be asking questions? How does that work?
So it's all in the planning. And when I say planning, I don't like to have an overly formulaic strategy, but experienced salespeople, good salespeople, just have a format in their mind. So what I mean by a good strategy is that depending on the type of individual that you are meeting, you will ask a different question to understand or gauge their interest or know where they are in terms of the work that they do or the type of challenge that they might have. So if we imagine the funnel, everyone can imagine a sales funnel, a marketing funnel. At the top of that funnel is your universe. It's all of your potential customers that you could theoretically talk to. Now, if you're communicating to someone at the top of that funnel that doesn't probably know that your company even exists, possibly, you ask a question which is very wide open, and all you're trying to do is actually connect with them. So a question such as, do you encounter this particular challenge in your role? You're just trying to actually build a bond, something common that you'll be able to actually talk about. Now, the further down the funnel that you get, your questions start becoming more and more and more specific. But at the top, when you initially make that contact, it's all about building credibility. It's all about building awareness. And it's all about actually showcasing that you understand what that particular individual that you're speaking to is going through. And it's being relatable. That's it. You're not there. You're not going to close the sale there. It's going to take several extra conversations and probably require other people to be part of this process as well.
The idea of closing early. I love asking a room of people, how many people went on a first date here? Every hand goes up and I say, did you marry that person after the first date?
It's a great analogy.
Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. One more thing about questions I think is an important piece, and I mentioned it before, is I love setting up a question so that the expert in their business. They may be frustrated by poor presentations in their business. What's your experience? So when I say that, I'm saying I get the big picture, the landscape. Tell me about your specific experience. That also says to them, this is someone who knows what he's talking about. We have one more topic to get to today. What about when people say, whoa, that's too expensive? Hey, whoa, we don't have the budget for that. What's going on there? Why are people doing that to us?
Testing you. That's to see your reaction. and objections, that's what you're talking about. And I'm not going to, a lot of people will say, how do you manage an objection? Well, actually, manage is the wrong word. How do you handle an objection? Because it's a psychological impact first and foremost, and it's about you and your mindset and how you trained yourself to handle that particular conversation or objection. With experience, of course, it gets better, and the more time and energy you spend in a particular industry, it gets easier as well. But objections are in the same way that we've just spoken about communication. It's just another format to be able to communicate to your audience. I see objections as opportunities. I see objections as an opportunity to review your pitch, to validate understanding. Actually, it's an opportunity for you to ask a different set of questions, right? An objection means that the prospect or the customer was listening, because if they weren't, they would have shut you down. Now, it actually gives you an opportunity to take the conversation in a different direction. If the money objection is a common one.
The number one.
Yeah, it's a common one, and a lot of people don't realize, but what are they benchmarking that reaction to?
The language I use on this, and no one ever said this as a prospect, no one ever said this to us, or if they did, I don't remember it, is, hey, I'm not convinced yet of the value. Convince me of the value. Because they may say things that a thin-skinned person would be offended by. What do you mean my stuff's not good enough for you? That's offensive. Now we got boxing gloves on. And it's not like that. What they're doing is they're putting up some sort of smoke screen to protect themselves. And at the same time say to you, if you think about it, high-end luxury cars, as opposed to compact economy cars, both do very similar things. Not everything is the same, but very similar. And their function is similar. So how can you justify charging 95,000 pounds for one or 15,000 pounds for the other?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are so many reasons for it. Supply and demand, it's because one is something that is that they've created that brand, they've created that awareness. People buy into that. So there are huge amounts of reasons for that. But I totally agree with you.
So when people say, convince me of the value, have we done something wrong? When they object, have we not been thorough in our sales process?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think that it's important to actually ask that question of yourself. Did we miss something? Because again, I believe that in sales, that's one of the most undervalued parts of the process, which is reflection on actually, could we have done something differently? And more often than not, what will happen is when a sale doesn't close, sales teams will go back and try and dissect what happened and what went wrong. But we don't do that enough when something goes right, because when something goes right, what actually went right? What parts of the process worked really, really well? And actually, sometimes it's because of the type of customer that we were talking to. It could be timing. So we have to collect this information and log it and say, right, how do we replicate that environment so that we continue to have a similar level of success with an engaged customer at that point who is ready to buy? And I think that the objection around money is about value. Money is about your ability to solve a problem. And sometimes in what happens is that I've seen this as well, where a salesperson, the customer has told them what a particular problem that they're trying to get over is. But the salesperson, knowing that they might be able to get a bigger deal here, starts talking about all of these other elements that they might be able to bolt onto this particular deal. Now, whilst I understand the salesperson's mentality and that actually if they can do that, they'll get a bigger order value for this particular deal right now, the customer actually starts getting confused. Fix the problem here and now, deliver the value, and you will likely have a customer for a long, long time, because because straight away, a pain point that is actually probably keeping them up at night, you fixed it. They're going to come back to you. They will remember you the next time that they need something. Or if after that process you go in there and say, well, look, this is what we did, this is what happened, this is how else we might be able to help you, they're going to be a lot more engaged. They're going to be a lot more open in how they have that conversation with you and how they engage with you.
Sure. So it's a number of pieces in the process that add up to that. One of the examples I've seen, I may not get it as well as the person I saw doing it, but he said, I'll sell you this pen for 25 euro. Are you going to buy it, Vinit? Yes or no? Yes, no?
No.
Okay. What you didn't know and what I didn't tell you is there is a diamond embedded in the top of this that's worth about 1,200 euro. It's the same pen as when I started, but the problem is I didn't give you all the information. I didn't convince you of the value. Now I could sell this to you. You know now that there's a diamond in there, and I could sell this to you. I could offer it to you for 600. Would you say yes then?
As a value proposition, yes, it makes sense.
You would, yeah, you would be jumping at it. Yeah. So part of the issue here is how do we set things up? Do we ask the right questions? And another one with asking questions is, do we jump to sell as soon as we hear the right answer? My answer is no. In other words, when I'm cleaning the room and I find a dirty piece of laundry, do I run downstairs, throw it in the washing machine and start it up and then come back up and clean more? No, I fill the laundry bag. So if I hear that you have a pain point here, and then I ask more questions, filling my laundry bag, tell me about other pain points, you know, besides presentation skills. Do you find that the writing skills in the company, customer service, selling, human resources, any of these areas where we could help, I want to fill that laundry bag first. And then let's start washing. So it's all part of the process, isn't it?
So I completely agree with what you're saying then. And I sometimes in conversations, the more that you probe and the more that you kind of dig deeper, you realize that the actual pain point that the customer originally told you is something completely different. And the only way that you're going to be able to know that is through the questions that you ask to unearth the other challenges that they may have. But I think that it's important, really, really important, that if something is holding them back in that moment, right now, that's the thing that you have to get over. That trigger is what you have to tackle first and foremost before you try and actually go on to other things.
Sure. Vinit, we're at the end of our time here. Question for you: if the audience members want to find you on the web, where would they look?
So you can find London School of Sales on Facebook. London School of Sales exists on LinkedIn as well. You can look me up. So Vinit, V-I-N-I-T, surname Shah, S-H-A-H. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter, LSOS_grow. Drop me an email, Vinit@lsos.co as well. So I look forward to hearing from you and always happy to engage in a conversation.
Sure. LSOS.co. That's London School of Sales.co. What's your phone number there?
Sorry?
What's your phone number there?
Phone number is +44, so 0044 203 4852.
Perfect. All right. And my name is Rich Atkins. I'm with Improving Communications. We are at improvingcommunications.com, improvingcommunications.co.uk, and improvingcommunications.ie. We are in the US, in England, and in Ireland as well. So please get in touch with either of us if we can help. I am Rich at improvingcommunications.com, 516-317-2900. Folks, enjoy your day. Vinit, it's been delightful. We'll do this again.
Thank you.